Have you ever really thought about the words you use every day? I mean, really thought about where they come from? Well, it turns out so many of them are hiding a secret history, a 6,000-year-old mystery just sitting there waiting for us to solve it. And today, we're going to be the detectives who crack the case. Okay, let's dive in. All right, so every good mystery needs a central clue, right? Well, here's ours. We've got two completely different ways to say water. One comes from Latin, the language of the Roman Empire. The other is from Old English, spoken around the same time. And yeah, at first glance, you'd think they have absolutely nothing in common. But do they? So on one hand, you've got the Latin aqua. Think aquarium, aquatic. It's got that sharp, crisp k sound in it. But on the other hand, you've got the Old English ea. It's soft, really just a long vowel sound. And fun fact, that word is actually where we get the a in the word island, which literally meant waterland. So how on earth could these two words possibly be related? Well, their connection is buried deep, deep in the past. To solve this thing, we really have to put on our detective hats. We're on the hunt for clues that connect not just these two little words, but literally thousands of others across dozens and dozens of languages, from India all the way to Ireland. You see, this is so much bigger than just Latin and English. We're talking about a huge family of languages. I mean, Spanish, Russian, Greek, Hindi, German, Persian, you name it. And they all seem to share this mysterious, invisible ancestor. It kind of points to the idea that at some point, way, way before recorded history, there was a single ancient source for all of them. So who's our main suspect in all this? The one that connects everything? Well, it's a language that nobody has actually spoken for thousands of years. A language that was never ever written down. Let's call it the ghost language. Now, linguists have a name for this ghost language, Proto-Indo-European, or PIE for short. And what is just wild about PIE is that we have no books in it, no stone carvings, absolutely nothing written down. It's what's called a proto-language, which means it's a scientific reconstruction. We can only see its shape through the echoes and traces it left behind in all its children languages. Kind of like you can only see a ghost by the ripples it makes in the air. Okay, so if it was never written down, how can we be so sure it was even real? Well, the answer is just some brilliant, brilliant detective work. Linguists figured out how to work backwards. They started comparing all these different languages, both modern and ancient, to find these hidden patterns, this shared linguistic DNA that proves they all had to come from the same source. And they found a way to trace it all the way back to the origin. Let's look at their key piece of evidence. The key piece of evidence, the fingerprint left at the crime scene, if you will, is what's called a root word. This is the ancient core part of a word that somehow managed to survive for thousands of years, even as languages were twisting and changing all around it. A PI root is like the absolute heart of a word's meaning. You can think of it as the great-great-great-grandparent of an entire family of related words that are now scattered across a ton of different languages. And by finding and comparing these roots, we can start to piece together our ghost language. All right, let's look at our first piece of hard evidence. This is the reconstructed PIE root times ag, which meant something like to drive or to set in motion. And that little asterisk you see at the beginning, that's just a little note linguists use to show us it's a reconstructed word, not one they ever found written down. And this is where the case cracks wide open. Just look at the descendants of that one single root, ag. In Latin, it became ago, to drive, which is where we get our modern English words like agent and agile. In Greek, you get ago, to lead. In Old Norse, it's aka, to drive, and then all the way over in ancient Sanskrit, you find ajati, he drives. Now, yeah, they all sound a little different. They've been shaped by centuries of change, but you can still totally see and hear that core ag sound in every single one of them. It is the exact same fingerprint, left at the scene in 4 totally different places. Okay, but that brings us right back to our first mystery, doesn't it? If these roots are so tough, why do aqua and AI sound so completely different? Well, the answer is that sounds aren't set in stone. They shift and change over time. But, and this is the absolute key to the whole thing, they change according to predictable rules. Let's check out another root to see how this works. Albo, which meant white. Okay, so as PIE split off into different language branches, that original BH sound started to change. On the branch that eventually led to Latin, that BH softened into a simple B sound, giving them the word albus, for white. But on the Greek branch, that very same BH sound hardened into a P sound, which gave them alphos, a word for a white rash. See, it's the same root, but a predictable, rule-based sound change happened along the way. And now, with that final clue, we can solve our water mystery. The original PIE root was aqua. Now, on the branch that became Latin, that hard qua sound was preserved. Simple enough. That gave us aqua. But on the Germanic branch, the one that led to Old English, a very specific sound law kicked in, and it caused that qua sound to just disappear completely. So aqua first became awo in Proto-Germanic, and then over many more centuries, that softened into the Old English word ia. So the amazing thing is, they are the same word. The qua sound just vanished, following a perfectly consistent rule. Case closed. But all this detective work is so much more than just a cool word game. By being able to reconstruct this ancient vocabulary, we've actually uncovered something pretty incredible about our shared human history. You see, these ancient roots, they're like fossils. They're these tiny, perfectly preserved pieces of a world that vanished a long, long time ago. And when you start putting all these little fossils together, they don't just tell you about words anymore. They tell you about the people who spoke them. They start to paint a picture of an entire lost world. I mean, just look at the world these words build for us. We had a word for goat, I, and a word for high or mountain, bray, a word for tree, and specifically an oak tree, drew. And they had words for to build a house, which was dem, and to plow a field, ar. Right there, just from a handful of linguistic fossils, a whole picture comes into focus. These were people who herded animals, they lived near highlands, they built homes from oak, and they farmed the land. These aren't just words, they're a snapshot of a life from 6,000 years ago. The story these word fossils tell is it's a huge one. It's a story of how a single group of people from a single place spread out across entire continents. They carried their language with them, and it branched and evolved and blossomed into the incredible diversity of languages we see today. It's a story of our deep, profound, and often invisible connection to each other. So the next time you talk, just listen for a second. You're not just speaking English or Spanish or Hindi. You are speaking with the echoes of 6,000-year-old ancestors. Every single sentence you say is a living link to a deep and shared human past. So you have to wonder, what secrets are hiding in the very next words you say?